Welcome to Theme Weavers, your weekly wisdom for weaving yoga themes into your classes to inspire your students. I'm your host, Heidi Kasner. Let's get started. Welcome back. Today we're going to look at how to deliver a Dharma talk and weave the theme of the warrior poses and the dreadlock of destruction, which reminds us to pause and respond with intention rather than react impulsively. It teaches us to balance strength with compassion, transforming challenges into opportunities for wisdom and growth. Ooh, it's going to be a good one. In case this is the first episode you're listening to, please go back and check out Season 1, Episode 2 of the Theme Weavers podcast for details and background on the structure of how and why to weave themes through your yoga classes. If you choose to use today's teaching on the warrior poses and the dreadlock of destruction as your theme, please find a way to turn my voice into yours. Make this theme authentic to you specifically. And as always, just a few little housekeeping items to bring up before we dive into today's episode. Sometimes I am like a broken record, but your feedback really does mean everything to me. Whether you comment on the episode directly where you listen to it, or if you send me a message or a comment on Instagram or Facebook, or send an email directly, hearing from you gets me really excited and inspired to keep going. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And if you are so inclined and enjoy the podcast, there is an option to set up a subscription to Theme Weavers for a small monthly fee. If you are a chromatic yoga teacher specifically, and you subscribe to the podcast, you can track your listening hours and they count as continuing education for chromatic yoga. You can drop me a line at themeweverspodcast@gmail.com if you have any questions on that. And if you do enjoy Theme Weavers, please make sure that you follow the show where you listen to it and not just like listen to it, because the amount of followers you have does make a difference in where you show up in ratings on podcasts and who they recommend it to. And if you're able to leave a review as well where you listen, it does make a difference. So thank you. And 2 pieces of exciting news if you haven't heard them yet. Theme Weavers Academy has officially launched. It's a quick practical course designed to help you craft impactful yoga classes with confidence and creativity. Check out the link in the show notes to learn more and join me on this transformative journey. And lastly, I wrote a book called Energize Your Life, a chakra workbook for personal transformation. I'm super proud of it. It's super pretty. I love it. So if you already have it, thank you. And if not, you can visit heidikasneryoga.com/chakra book for details. The link will also be in the show notes too. So thanks for tuning in. Let's dive into today's episode. Here we go. Ready for yoga story time? I bet you are if you hit play. So today I'm going to share with you a powerful story from Hindu mythology, one that inspires strength, focus, and purpose in our practice. It's the myth behind the warrior poses, rooted in the story of Virabhadra, the fierce warrior created by Shiva. The story begins with Shiva, the god of transformation and destruction, who we talked about last week. Shiva was meditating in solitude. His wife Sati was deeply devoted to him, but her father, King Daksha, did not approve of their marriage, did not like him. To humiliate Shiva, Daksha hosted a grand ritual, but deliberately excluded Shiva from the guest list. Not cool. Sati, who was heartbroken by her father's disrespect, attended the event, hoping to reconcile the family, make things better. Instead, she was met with ridicule. She was consumed by grief and anger, so Sati threw herself into the sacrificial fire, ending her life. When Shiva learned of Sati's death, his sorrow and fury shook the world. In his rage, Shiva tore a lock of hair from his matted dreadlocks and threw it to the ground. From this lock sprang Virabhadra, a mighty warrior embodying Shiva's righteous anger and heartbreak. Virabhadra stormed the ritual event, destroying everything in his path, including beheading Sati's father. But as things tend to shift quickly in mythology, the story didn't end there. Sati, now reborn in a new form, returned to confront Shiva. She was furious, not just at her father's cruelty, but at Shiva's impulsive actions. While Daksha had wronged them, his death wouldn't solve anything. In her wisdom, Sati demanded Shiva make amends. Shiva resurrected Daksha by replacing his head with that of a goat. Humbled and transformed, Daksha held a new ritual to honor both Shiva and Sati. This myth holds an important message. Challenges, pain, and hard things will always arise in life. It's natural to feel anger or the urge to react impulsively. I do it all the time. I don't want to, but I do. But Shiva's story reminds us that our first reaction isn't always the best reaction to take action on. Acting out of rage might feel powerful in the moment, but it can lead to harm we regret later. Instead, this myth invites us to pause, reflect, and respond with intention. Even when we falter and make mistakes, as Shiva did, we can take accountability and strive to make things right. True strength is not just about standing up for ourselves, it's about doing so with compassion and balance. Think about the moments in your life when you felt hurt or disrespected. It's really easy to lash out or hold on to resentment. But what if you paused, like Sati and Shiva, to consider the impact of your actions? What if, instead of reacting impulsively, you chose a path of strength tempered with compassion? In your life, this might look like setting healthy boundaries in a relationship, speaking up at work without anger clouding your message, or choosing forgiveness over revenge. It's not easy to balance strong emotions with thoughtful action, but this is the warrior's path, one of courage, mindfulness, and grace. As we move through our asana practice today, our postures, let the warrior poses remind you of Virabhadra's power and Sati's wisdom. Feel the strength in your legs, the focus in your gaze, and the expansion in your arms. Imagine yourself standing tall, ready to face life's challenges, not with destruction, but with balance and intention. Okay, so that's your Dharma Talk story time. It's finished. And now it's time to get into the class and find a phrase to drop as breadcrumbs throughout the whole class at different points to help your students come back to this idea of the warrior poses and the dreadlock of destruction. Whoa, ripped out of the head. You follow the breadcrumbs, then you stay on course and you stay connected to your theme the entire time. Some options I like to use are ground yourself first, react with clarity, not chaos, or respond rather than react, or feel the strength in your legs as you pause before action, or pause before you act. Decide which pose, movement, or action is best for you in this moment out of response, not reaction. And lastly, one more, how can you channel your inner warrior here for transformation? Okay, so you choose one, two, or your own version of those thematic three-line phrases. So let's have a little chat about how we bring all of this alive in the class. What additional things do you think we should hit on? Things like peak poses or specific pranayamas, or really anything else related to the warrior poses and the dreadlock of destruction. Okay, for me, I want to spend a little bit of time here talking about my favorite. It's not really a peak pose, but it's a peak sequence, if you will, and it's a warrior sequence. I've done this before as if we are warriors preparing for battle. Each posture symbolizes different aspects of a warrior's preparation and journey. So here's a little breakdown of the sequence and poses and the connections to a warrior's story that you can share. So first is Warrior One, which, if you're not familiar, it's a lunge with the arms reaching overhead and the chest facing forward, and your back heel is grounded. And Warrior One represents the moment of preparation and intention. The warrior stands tall, grounded and focused, lifting their arms toward their goal. It symbolizes determination and the clarity needed before stepping into action. So when you're in Warrior One, you can picture a warrior standing at the edge of the battlefield, visualizing the journey ahead, rooted in strength and purpose. Next comes Warrior Two, which is, if you don't know about it, it's a deep lunge with the arms extended parallel to the ground, with your gaze forward over the front hand. And Warrior Two represents the readiness and courage to face challenges. The wide stance of your legs and open arms show confidence, while the steady gaze indicates unwavering focus, right? You're not blinking, you're looking very focused. You can picture the warrior surveying the battlefield, fully aware of the obstacles ahead with poise and readiness to take action. All right, so then you reverse your warrior. So from Warrior Two, the back arm slides down the back leg while the front arm arcs overhead. And this represents resilience and inner strength. The upward reaching arm reminds the warrior to stay connected to their higher purpose and trust their strength, even in the face of adversity. Picture the warrior taking a moment to look inward, drawing courage and inspiration from within. Next comes humble warrior. So this can actually come from either Warrior One or Two, depending on where you choose to go into it from your reverse warrior. So I usually do reverse warrior back to Warrior Two, and then I clasp my hands behind the back and fold forward inside the front leg, my head bowing toward the earth. Traditionally, a lot of teachers do this more from Warrior One. I am more what would word be for it? I'm more connected to it from Warrior Two. It feels better in my pelvis and my hips, personally, for me. But this humble warrior signifies surrender and devotion to the journey. It reminds the warrior that strength comes not only from physical power, but also from humility and connection to a greater purpose. Picture the warrior bowing to the earth, honoring the sacredness of the journey and the lessons to come. And the last of your warrior sequence is warrior 3. That's when you balance on one leg with your arms and extended leg, creating a straight line parallel to the ground, kind of like a capital letter T. That's how I always think of it, or at least how I think my body wants to move in that direction. Whether it does or not, it's a totally different story. But this represents action and focus. This posture, warrior 3, demands balance, precision, and determination, mirroring the warrior in the midst of the battle, fully immersed in the present moment. You can picture the warrior charging forward, cutting through distractions, focused entirely on the task at hand. So this whole warrior sequence that I just went through tells the story of a warrior's journey, highlighting the qualities of preparation, focus, resilience, humility, and decisive action. So just to bring it back real quick, warrior 1, the warrior sets their intention and prepares mentally and physically. Warrior 2, they take their stance, confident and ready to face what lies ahead. Reverse warrior, the warrior honors their strength and connection to a higher purpose. Humble warrior, the warrior bows in surrender, acknowledging that true strength comes from humility and perseverance. And lastly, warrior 3, the warrior moves forward with precision and power, fully committed to their path. So if you're doing a class like this and you're using the myth and the sequence of the warrior postures, you can use this story to inspire reflection, encouraging your students to connect these symbolic moments to their own challenges and inner journeys. This deepens the practice, transforming it into more than just physical movement. It becomes a meditation on courage, resilience, and purpose. It's pretty cool. I really like it. It's this like really all-encompassing story that really comes into play with different postures that you take and deepens the introspection that your students can take too. It's really cool. There's also a Rumi quote I like. In moments of anger, remember you have the power to build or to burn. I like that. It lets people come back to this idea of like, what are you going to do with this anger when you're feeling that emotion? Are you going to just like throw it down, or are you going to take some time and figure out your next action? And there's another quote. I don't know who said it. I can't find it anywhere, but I read it once. It said unknown as the author, but strength without wisdom is a fire without control. Right? You lose control if you're not really tapping into your inner wisdom when you're responding to something. And that's when you're reacting versus responding. Another thing that you can do in class that I like to do, this is the last thing because this is a lot of information. For a meditation, you can ask your students to visualize themselves as a warrior standing firm in the face of conflict, choosing a path of intention and grace with each breath. And you can even, through that visualization, take them through each of the different warrior poses and the thing that you're feeling as a warrior in those moments, and really preface it for them in meditation, either at the beginning or at the end of the class. Or before the warrior series, you can have them sit down and take them through a guided meditation. If you're like a very flowy teacher, you probably wouldn't have them sit in the middle of class to do that, but it's an option. Okay, so let's wrap up our warrior class now that we talked about all that. Here's what I would say as a reverse Dharma talk at the end, the closing to the class. As you come out of Shavasana and prepare to step off your mat, take this story with you. Challenges and difficult emotions will always arise, but you have the power to choose how you respond. Like Virabhadra, you can stand strong in your purpose. Like Sati, you can bring wisdom and compassion to even the most painful moments. Life's challenges are invitations to grow, and every mistake is an opportunity to make things right. As you walk into your day, remember that true strength is not just in how you stand up for yourself, but in how you honor the world around you with your actions. Now, if you like this yoga story time, find a way to bring the theme alive in your own voice, in your own practice and teaching. The story of Virabhadra reminds us to pause and respond with intention rather than react impulsively. It teaches us to balance strength and compassion, transforming challenges into opportunities for wisdom and growth. Okay, please reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, email, all the things, and let me know how this episode lands. I'm here to support you, fellow yoga teacher, in your class preparation and delivery, so let me know how I can be of the most support to you. That's the part that I love the most. I love being there for each of you. Tune in next time for a new myth for inspiration for your classes, and don't forget to check out our course, Theme Weavers Academy, crafting impactful classes. Click the link in the show notes to learn more and enroll. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next week with a new myth and modern inspiration to bring to your practice and your teaching. See you next time.